Welcome, everybody. I am Tim Sutton, here to bring you a new perspective, also brought to you by a Better Understanding. If you've seen any of the shows before, welcome back. I appreciate you being here. If this is your first time, welcome. And just very simply, I am a law enforcement officer in the state of Virginia, going on my 34th year, and have worked since about 2003 with families that are dealing with disabilities, loved ones with disabilities, whether it's children, teenagers with any type of disability, autism, Down syndrome, all the way up to some of your older individuals dealing with different forms of dementia. So what I try to do is educate and help people better understand what's going on out there in the dementia world, in the special needs world, and offer up some resources that are out there. The lady I have on tonight, I met her, well, actually by phone last week. I was introduced to her and some of her work and reached out, and she actually contacted me. Teresa Youngstrom, she's a registered nurse in Ohio, and she actually has a company, A Better Approach for Memory Care. Well, we got to talking when we connected, and I can tell you we talked for an hour about what I'm doing, what she's doing. And up there in Cincinnati, she's working on training fire, EMS, and public safety officers, and is looking to hopefully train some law enforcement as well. So I filled her in on how I've traveled the country teaching this to law enforcement. I think the door has opened more due to the fact that I have the experience as a law enforcement officer. I've been put in those areas where I had those audiences. But what I want to do is show you a video now, a little bit about Teresa and what she's doing with her A Better Approach to Memory Care.
So what I do is help people understand why people that have brain failure, why they do what they do, and then how we can come alongside and help them, helping them understand how to care for these folks at every stage of the game. That's what I appreciate doing. I work with families, I do family consultations. I work with home care companies and retirement homes to train their staff. And we like to train everyone from the front desk people to all the aides and nurses, but all the way back to the maintenance and the housekeeping folks, so that they know how to keep the peace. They know what they're looking for if someone's getting upset, so that we can try and keep the peace with our residents who have brain failure. What I'm able to do is come alongside and provide some education so that you can again get some peace in your life. My company is, of course, A Better Approach to Memory Care.
Everybody, welcome Teresa.
Thank you, Tim. I'm doing great. Thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you for taking the time to come visit and share some of what you're doing. I tell people I'm trying to spotlight resources out there and also bring in people on the show. You know, it's not about me. I want to show what other people are doing to help families, help care partners deal with the struggle that they're of the dementia and any other type of disabilities. And looking at what you're doing, you and I are trying to do the same exact thing. And it's just working together to try to not just reach particular audiences, but I think anybody who comes in contact with the general public needs to understand the behaviors and how to interact, and I guess the progression of the dementias and Alzheimer's. So what you're doing is huge. So you've been a nurse for 35 years?
Yes, that's correct. We stopped counting then anyway.
I'm about to stop. I'm at 34 years of law enforcement. I'm about ready to stop counting. But what prompted you? I know when we talked, you'd said you'd worked in emergency rooms in all different areas of hospitals and healthcare. But what is the one thing that led you into really working towards dementia and educating people?
So, late in my career, I had helped someone start a private duty home care company. And so I was up close and personal in the homes with a lot of families. And the caregivers were having struggles with working with folks with dementia in all different stages. And so, really got busy educating myself. And I would have told you I understood dementia, Tim, until it struck my family. And then really when it struck my family and my own mother threw me out of the blankety blank house, I had to
Right,
say, "Wait, what?" A-
right,
And cuz I would have told you I understood dementia and you just be nice to them and it all works out. But I was wrong.
right. Well, do you, now that you're in it, and that's what I always find interesting training law enforcement, you teach a class, and by the time you're finished, those officers, and I'm thinking you probably have the same experience, look back on situations that they had dealt with for years, for years. And
Mhm.
there are particular instance where you look back now going, that's what it was. I had
Yep.
no idea. Have you got any situations such as that to share with us?
Yeah, I would say when I was a director of a memory care and assisted living, looking back at that, I feel like my caregivers, we were always short staffed and they always had their agenda. And so they're always racing into the room, to because they only had so much time to get so many patients up and ready for breakfast.
Right,
And if all of a sudden they find you in a situation where you're wet down to your socks and not very happy about things, if they come in and startle you, then the dukes come up and then we're going to fight with them. And so I've learned how to really change the way we do care, how to have a better approach coming in there, how to recognize when things are starting to stir up so that we can put things
right,
back down before it turns into a big mess. And I'm really big on not doing forced care. So if I do come in and you get upset with me, you know what? I'm going to apologize and back out and see if maybe you need more time. Did I come in too fast? Were you just waking up from a dream and you had
right,
fear? What was going on? Um, eh, because what we used to do, I hate to say it, was we might have just gone out in the hall and said, "I'm going to need help down here with Tim. He's going to be a problem today. Yeah, if you could help me." And then we get help and we come in and
right,
we force care on you.
right.
And then all I've done is program you to be a little bit more ready when we get there the next time. We can't have these people living like this, waiting for the next person to
Right.
come in. And because they really can enjoy life if we can learn how to join them on the journey.
Yeah, that's one thing I try to promote and stress to people is you're looking for a way to have these peaceful encounters for positive outcomes,
Yeah.
so that you don't have continue to have the issues, and a lot of it is how you approach that individual. I
Yeah.
know one thing you've talked about is the issue of, okay, well, these behaviors, medicating the behaviors,
Hmm.
and where that doesn't necessarily be need to be done if you can learn some of the things that you're teaching and training people in the end of dementia world to make it
Sure.
an easier interaction.
Yeah.
So tell me
It seems
about that as opposed to medicating.
it seems to be an automatic go-to with caregivers or just health caregivers in general, is that if they're acting out, well, what can we give them?
Right,
Or he hit me. What can I give them? And I always want to take a time out and say, well, maybe we can reevaluate what just happened there because one of my mentors, Teepa Snow, she said that 70% of those behaviors we cause, and maybe it's our body language, maybe it's our tone, maybe it's our volume coming in. I mean, they're not all hard of hearing.
right,
Maybe it's touching them too soon. We forget they lose peripheral vision, so we have to
right,
approach from the front always, always. And and so maybe they have lost language and cognition skills. And so when they're fired up about something, they might be cussing and carrying on and calling me every name in the book. And that's not very pretty, but that is their only form of communication right now. That behavior is their only form of communication. And so I like to take a time out before we medicate that down because if we pay close attention, like I like to say, become a detective and not a
right.
judge,
Yeah,
maybe we'll figure out what's going on there because maybe if you watch close enough, they're holding that arm. maybe if we watch close enough, we'd see they're kind of limping a little bit because we have people walking around on broken hips and, injured
Right.
arms for a couple days before the aha moment comes up that, oh, no wonder they're being such a pain in our neck. They're injured. So I like to tell people, when you hear those emergency words, the ugly words, it's usually because language and cognition is damaged. So they're just using all they have left. But
Right.
that's usually stimulated by pain, fear, or anxiety.
Right.
Pain, fear, or anxiety.
Or the way that amygdala fires and how they deal with that fight, flight, or freeze. And that's one thing I've heard so much about the cussing and the language. And it's like
Mhm.
I had no idea my grandmother knew those words.
No.
They cuss better than a sailor does.
Yeah.
But the thing is, they're not trying to be offensive, and it's not something they're choosing to do. They're just trying to express themselves the best way they can. And it might not be pretty. Grandma might have been in church every time the doors were open, but it's the dementia that sometimes turns them into, I don't know if you want to say somebody else, but it's somebody you're like, why are they changing? Why? But that's their only mode of expression. And the
It's
way
the
you
only,
explained
yeah.
it, it's great.
They're just using what they have left.
Right.
Because you have to remember, whatever diagnosis they have that brings on these symptoms of dementia,
Right.
if they have a true dementia, it's a chronic, debilitating, terminal disease, and so it's always getting worse. And so sometimes, as soon as we figure out how to care for them in a certain way that pleases them, then they change and go to a
Right.
different place. But yeah, those behaviors, when you see that, you just have to right away kick into detective mode and realize there's something stimulating that. And and can you figure it out though? Can you come alongside and figure that out? Or are you just going to medicate them down? And you and I talked about the whole medication thing.
Right.
Chances are in the hospital, if you're acting out and calling names and being abusive verbally,
Right.
probably they're not thinking you're in pain. They're going to give you something, whether it's a antipsychotic or something to sedate. I don't even imagine they're going to go first for a pain med
Right.
because that isn't where their brain goes to first. They think that you're acting out and having a behavior,
Right.
and so they just want you to be quiet and stay in bed. And sadly, in years past, we'd pull out the restraints and everything else, and it was so sad. But medicating you down, Tim, and hitting you up with Haldol, and then
Right.
having you not even move or get up or eat for 24 to 36 hours, that doesn't really help you in a lot of ways as far as your bodily functions, eating, drinking, or going to
Right.
the bathroom. What have we done? So are they quiet for a little while? Okay, but are they better? Did we fix what was wrong?
Right. Well, the tough thing is, and especially in public safety, most of the tools and things we use in our job are overstimulating.
Mhm,
I joke because our radios that we carry with us, we can have those radios turned up as loud as possible, and we can just block out anything until our number is called, and we hear that. But we've
mhm.
got the bright lights, the red, blue lights, and things like that. And I think sometimes we don't realize how that could contribute to a lot of the problem, that overstimulation, and trying to get them to a calm place, but also knowing where they are in their mind because I remember we had a lady that we dealt with who had wandered off, and she had actually been in Germany during World War II. And the
Mm,
officer pulls up and started to talk to her, and she's carrying on a conversation in German and says,
mhm,
"Well, do you speak English?" And she said, "Yeah, quite fluently. So I need you to talk in English." So we would get her back home, and when we'd leave, she would just lay out the family and start hitting and screaming and having a meltdown. But as soon as we would walk into the house,
mhm,
she would go over, sit in the corner, put her hands in her lap, and just sit there, very docile.
mm. Okay.
And the family said in her mind, she thought it was the 1940s.
Mhm.
Well, there you can easily understand who she thought we were when we came
Oh,
into
yeah.
the house in uniform, and she would just go over there and sit down and wouldn't make a noise until we left. And then it was, Katie bar the door. She was fighting with the family. So
Mhm,
that's, people need to understand. And with the Alzheimer's Association saying there's over 6 million people in this country with, Alzheimer's or form of dementia, what you're doing, we need more people out there doing what you're doing and
mhm.
educating people. So that's why I think it's great that we've been able to connect.
I appreciate that. With fire and EMS too, in my world, we frequently were calling them when the wheels were falling off with a client at the nursing home,
Right,
at the community, when we had lost control of somebody, or somebody that wasn't experienced had them all riled up and they're throwing things. And so what I had to explain to the fire and EMS guys is that when that guy is all worked up like that, his vision is really narrowed, and
right,
he's not really respecting the uniform right then. Because a lot of times, like your incident, most seniors do respect the uniform. And actually, they seek that out because that's someone they respect.
right,
And but in the heat of the moment, when the wheels are falling off and maybe somebody's bleeding, chairs have been thrown, and here we need help.
right,
If they I tell them, if they come in like a herd of buffalo with all their supplies, and that only adds more energy to a
right,
room that already is overstimulated. And what we really need to do is find one person to go in without all that stuff and come up to the person and try and see if we can get a connection. Try and see if, like, "Oh my gosh, Tim, what is going on here? This
right,
isn't right." And can we act as if we're on their team, even for a moment, just to help settle them down? "Tim, oh my gosh, this isn't right. What's going on here? You
right,
people get out of here. Clear this room. What's going on? Is this a circus?" And have them have one person connect with that
right,
person if they can. Get them a chair, lead them to a bed. "Oh my gosh, man, this isn't right. Wow, I'm glad I'm here.
right,
Yeah, this looks like it got pretty crazy. Wow." And if
right.
they're bleeding, we
And
gotta take them out if they're bleeding.
yeah,
And so
and
to
it's
be
like
able
letting
to
them know you're there to help them. I am
Yeah.
here to help you. And I know you mentioned something in one of the videos I was watching that not all of them have hearing problems, so you don't need to yell at them. You need to treat them with respect, because that's
Mhm,
still a very intelligent individual that you're dealing with, and they know if you're talking down to them, or if you're, and I always stress to officers, our big thing is officer safety. I can tell
of
you at the end
course.
of the night, my number one goal is go home at the end of the night, but there's no reason with somebody I can't sit down in front of them and still be safe and have my elbow on my weapon. So, I've still got my officer safety. But
Mhm,
instead of standing over top of somebody when they're
mhm,
seated, talking to them, it's intimidating. But to be able to sit down and look them in eye to eye, you need to find a way to try to do that. And I think also understanding our limitations. I may remind them of somebody in their past that they did
yes.
not like,
Mhm,
and I may need to back off and go, you know what? Hey, can you come in here and talk to them? Maybe you'll get along better with them. And
yes.
just understanding where they, their life, and knowing as much as you can. Did they spend the early years of their life robbing banks and assaulting law enforcement officers? That could be an issue when you're trying to deal with the person who's just wandered off from the assisted living home, and you're just trying to help get them back. In their mind, they
Absolutely.
may have just robbed someplace, and the police are looking for them. So
Mhm.
it's understanding all those aspects.
Absolutely. Yeah, because you mean well. You guys come in and you mean well. But the calm down stuff
Yeah,
isn't really what's helping. And Mayo
right,
Clinic says that it's really our body language and our tone that they're paying most attention to. That really, by the time we're having symptoms of dementia, and if we're having a fired up moment, that they're probably only catching one or two words here or there
right,
anyway. So they're not really hearing everything. But can you make sure my body language looks like I'm here to help? I'm not here like this.
right.
And my facial expression, my tone, and I'm not hollering at you. I mean, these people aren't stupid,
No,
and they're not all hard of hearing. And there are more than 110 diagnoses that give us these symptoms of dementia, Alzheimer's being the biggest one. We still think
right,
that's 65%. But
right,
you've got your Lewy body folks, and those folks are on, looking sharp as you and me, and they're off then, and they're way out in outer space, and having hallucinations. And so that's a whole different thing to have to deal with. So
right,
there's really just so much training that comes into play. Um, and the thing is, so many people mean well, but like I learned, it's more than just being nice. We have to really learn some good techniques. And you were so spot on when you said it might be just something about you that sets them off.
right,
And then guess what? It's never going to win. You're going to have to change that. I've had caregivers that had the wrong perfume on,
right,
that set them off, and so we had to figure that out. But can we step back and try and figure it out instead of just call in you guys and have them sent out? Can we train up the staff better to have awareness of when they're starting to get
Right.
fired up and maybe some techniques on how to walk them down, back to a different level?
Right.
Validation is the key. We can't just come in and try and redirect. It's good, but it's not gonna work every time. You gotta validate their position. So if you
Right.
come in and they're having some delusion about being, light years away, being 20, 30 years ago in a situation and it's scary and they're worked up and you're just like, "Oh, please, you're in your
Yeah.
bed." Okay, guess what? They're gonna kick you out of the blankety blank house
That's the
because you
thing. It's
didn't.
real to them. That it is real. That is real
Mhm.
to them. And to sit there and tell them
Absolutely.
it's not.
No, and you gotta validate it before you can try and,
Right.
de-escalate things and then move them eventually physically or emotionally to another place.
Right.
But we gotta validate first, and we gotta really watch our body language and our tone. If your tone doesn't say you care, they may not want
And
to spend 2 cents with you, 2 seconds of time with you.
yeah, I think, one way I explain it, many times the paranoia sets in and people don't understand where the paranoia comes from. And my thought is, if I know 100% this is a fact and I'm constantly told it's not,
Mhm.
why are they telling me this isn't real? Why is this
Mhm.
not? When everybody's telling you that everything you believe is wrong,
Yeah,
that paranoia is bound to build. It's bound to build up and build up and build up. And I tell my classes, I said, if you came to class and you sat here and you wanted to mentally, I mean, you got halfway here and all of a sudden remembered you used a stove, and you're thinking, did I turn it off or did I not
right.
turn it off? I can't remember. If you go to that class and you're sitting in that class all day long, you may be a little bit on edge, wondering, okay, I can't remember, but if somebody going to call me, is the fire department going to call me, tell me the house is burnt down? I said, that person with dementia has that nagging feeling all the time that they're missing something. They
Yeah.
don't know what they're forgetting. I said, the
Mhm.
big difference is you can go back and check the stove and
Yeah.
there's nothing they can do to go get rid of that nagging feeling. So it's gonna eat away at you, and it's gonna make you irritable sometimes. And
Absolutely, absolutely, and you guys might just walk in on that
right,
irritability, and it was nothing you actually caused,
right,
but you're in it now, and you gotta join them where they are, because 'cause they're gonna be different places
right,
along that scale of where they're how they're coping or not coping. Something I think is so vital that, training first responders now that I'm learning is to point out something that was a revelation for me, and I had been a nurse at least 3 decades by the
right,
time I learned about this thing called anosognosia, Anosognosia, for those of you who are going to look it up. Anosognosia is actually a diagnosis where I can't see my own deficit. So that
right,
means I can't see that I'm forgetful. And those are the folks that are some of the most difficult, some of the most aggressive. They are then people just say, she's in denial. She's in
right,
denial. Um, but frequently it's because I don't really see my disease. And you know
right,
what? I get paranoid, suspicious, I'm the victim, and it's all your all's fault. Okay, so if your guys walk in on a situation like that where Joe Blow doesn't think that it's his fault, yet he's been, difficult all day,
right,
well, we got to come about that a different way. We might have to ask him to come, we might have to ask his opinion about some things and give him the time of day that maybe so that they'll establish a relationship where then they can work together on something,
right.
because if they just come in like, you better settle down, we're tired of you acting out, we've heard you've been mouthing off okay, those are fighting words for people
Yeah,
like that, and we can't do it. So to have an awareness, does this guy right now know he's the one that's sick, or does he not see his disease at all?
right,
And he thinks it's all of the rest of us. Okay, that is a tough place to be in, but
right,
man, it's a game changer though for how you care for them. The
right.
person who knows they are forgetful and knows that they're losing it, honey, help me, I'm losing it, honey, I
Yeah,
can't. Don't leave me.
right,
Okay, usually they're clingy and they want you to stay. The
right,
ones with the anosognosia are like, "Get out of my blankety blank house. I'm a
right,
millionaire and I don't need you." And that is something a woman said to me at her front door.
right.
You know why she was so angry?
What's that?
She had 10 ingrown toenails.
Oh wow.
She was in pain and had been in pain for months on end, and her kids just told me she's mean as a snake, can't do anything with her. We're putting her in a place.
Right.
You can go see her, but she's mean as a snake.
You got to dig a little deeper and find out the root
Oh,
of that stuff. And,
thank
you
you.
know, the thing is, and, you know, you don't know what you don't know. And sometimes you do the best you can. Luckily, my agency that I work for, I'll actually be teaching a class tomorrow, but our agency, all of our officers are trained autism, intellectual disability, as well as Alzheimer's,
Awesome.
dementia.
Awesome.
And what I think is absolutely amazing is in my view, I think the general public, the last thing they would expect is somebody with a gun and a badge to come down and sit at the kitchen table with them to explain to them what they're dealing with and why they're
Right.
dealing with it. And I love that because it helps break that wall down.
I love it too.
And you're doing the same thing. And I know you're trying to get you're doing public safety. You're trying to get into the law enforcement
Hmm.
arena. That sometimes there's pushback because there's not a lot of funding, but
Right.
law enforcement agencies are able to find funding for active shooters training and all these other things.
Yeah.
But getting them to realize that this is something, it's not going away. And we need more officers. We need more Teresa's out there doing this to help care for these care partners as well as the individuals with dementia.
Thank you. Some more Tim Suttons too would be a good idea.
Well, I don't know. I don't know if the world wants more of those, but 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 no, we just we need to keep doing what we're doing, and I'm hoping we'll get you back here on the show and we'll talk about more things that you're doing.
I'd
If
love
there's
that.
is there one point or one snippet of information that you want the viewers to get? Now, this was going to be on YouTube and it's going to be out there, so we don't know how many people are going to view it. Hopefully, tons. But is there one bit of information you want people to know about you and what you're doing, and just share it?
Yeah, well, I really appreciate that. So we are working on staff training for communities, for nursing homes and assisted living, so that we'll have those out soon. And we are going to create a first responder video too, realizing that we can't get everywhere. The challenge is that if I come out and train, then next month they have new people, and so we are going to need more training. So that is
Right,
something that our company is definitely working on. Um, but yeah, but just from a care perspective, just to take a breath at the door,
right,
check your body language and your tone. And then when you come in, be able to assess where they are in that moment so that you are part of the solution
right.
and not part of the problem.
Well, I've worked with the Training Response Network up in New Hampshire, and I've actually got a 3 hour video, Alzheimer's training for law enforcement out there. So it's being done.
Awesome.
And we just need more people doing it. We need these officers. We need the sheriffs and the chiefs to buy into it
Yep.
and realize how important it is so we can get it out there. And
Well, Tim, we have more 85-year-olds than we've ever had. So, I mean, our population is aging. I'm at the bottom of the baby boomers, but we got a
right,
lot of them. And they're
right.
saying 25% of people at age 65 have some symptoms of dementia. And by
Yeah,
the time we're 85, 50% of
50.
us, if we make
Yeah.
it to 85, will have it. So we really do have to prepare.
Well, it's not going anywhere.
Mhm.
It's not a matter of if you're going to deal with it. It's when you're going to deal with it. And I'm not just talking public safety. I'm talking about going shopping at the grocery store. You're going to
Oh,
run
yeah.
across it. You need to understand what's going on. So,
Yeah.
Teresa, I want to thank you. Have you got contact information if anybody wants to get in touch with you?
Absolutely. So my website is teresayoungstrom.com. You can see my name written there. I am on Facebook. I'm on LinkedIn. You can find me on YouTube. We're really starting to ramp up the videos and on Instagram. We're pulling out all the stoppers on getting more information out there to everybody. So the company is a better approach to memory care. Thanks so much, Tim, for having me today.
Well, Teresa, thank you. We're going to stay in touch, and we'll get you back on the show again. But I think what you're doing, we're doing the same thing. We may have ways to, reach different audiences, and,
Mhm.
and if I've got any suggestions, I'll do what I can to help you get in that law enforcement realm. And I
Thank you.
know I'll be hitting you up for more information because you've opened my eyes to a lot of things, and I've been teaching it for a while. So thank you for being here, and we will do this again.
My
And
pleasure.
everybody, just a heads up on April 15th here in the Richmond area, we are actually having a day at the Diamond the Flying Squirrels. It's going to be a better understanding event for individuals with disabilities. We want you to come out there, have fun, get to meet the crew from a better understanding, and just come up and see us. We're going to have a big, wonderful time, and we want everybody to come. You can get the tickets there. There's a code, scan code, you can get it. And if you're local here, we also have access to getting tickets in hand. So I just want to thank everybody for being here. Look forward to meeting some people out there at the Diamond, and just thanks for coming. And Dad, I love you. Thanks for watching. Y'all take care.